Broadcasting live on StarWorldWideNetworks.com. It's time for The Real Deal. Join the ambassador and special guest hosts as they put together great guests and honest commentary on a range of issues. But one of their main topics will be preserving Native American tributes in sports team nicknames. Also avid fans of music and the arts, and they'll always make time for a great song or two. Now, it's time for The Real Deal. Here's your host, the Ambassador.
Welcome to The Real Deal, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the famous Star Worldwide Networks in the Camelback Towers in beautiful downtown Scottsdale, Arizona, and we are definitely off the reservation again tonight. With me tonight is my producer, Kyle Pratt, the son of the infamous Dave Pratt. Say hello, Kyle.
How's it going, Ambassador?
Ambassador's all in. And my co-host, Maggie Yee from Hong Kong. How you doing, Maggie?
Hi, brother. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We got some great guest here in the studio with me tonight. Alex Popovich. Say hello, Alex.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. He's a war hero. We're going to be talking to him here on the first half. And then on the second half, and this is big. This is real big. I talked to my friend Jack Berkman, and he was on our show a couple months ago. He's going to be on again soon. He filed a lawsuit 2 days ago. He's representing the family of Seth Rich. Seth Rich is the kid that was killed in Washington, D.C. It was a hit. And he's the one gave the emails to WikiLeaks. And he was working for the DNC, and he got pissed off because he was a Bernie Sanders supporter, and he seen where Hillary Clinton and Podesta and the DNC, Donna Brazile, they were colluding to get Bernie out of the race and all the underhanded stuff they were doing, like giving her the debate questions. And so he seen what was going on, so he double-crossed them. And he gave WikiLeaks all of this information. So he got killed. It was a hit. Jack Berkman, my friend, is representing, filed a lawsuit on behalf of the family and against the Washington, D.C. Police Department. The police department was told to stand down. We're going to try to find out, and trust me, he will. This guy's like a bulldog. I'm telling you, they hired the right guy, and he don't stop. And he's my friend. And the lady that's doing the story out of Washington, D.C., Alicia Power, is going to be on the second half, so stay tuned. This is going to be a big one tonight. Okay, as I always do, I want to thank everybody that supports our show, listens to our show, all our guests from around the world, actually, because of our far reach, because this is internet. And as far as I'm concerned, I've always said that this is we started this on behalf of keeping the names of the teams, and we're going to continue to do it as long as we can get sponsors, because this is a phony civil rights scam that these people try to purport against the pro teams. It's a phony civil rights scam. And thank God for people like Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Redskins. We call him the gatekeeper. He hung tough, and if he would have went down, all of the other teams would have went down with him, but he hung tough. We want to thank HuMate International. That's my company, HUMATE.com, and we sponsor the show, and we sell minerals for organic agriculture. And don't forget to download the new app and our website. We got a new website at StarWorldWideNetworks.com, and it's tricked out, and you can listen to our show on iTunes, right, Kyle?
Yeah, they can find you on iTunes, or they can listen straight off their phone on the website as well.
Yeah, you can download the app. Again, we want to thank our listeners all over the country, Native Americans and Americans, and especially the towns. I don't know if I told you this, Alex. These name changers, they went after the pro teams. They went after Dan Snyder. They went after Lamar Hunt, the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, the owners of the Cleveland Indians, Atlanta Braves. Chicago Blackhawks, even Golden State Warriors. And they couldn't get him to budge because everybody was looking at Dan Snyder to see what he was going to do. And he told him to go to hell. He says, we ain't changing the name. And so he hung tough. But so then what they did is they went around the country, and they're still doing this, and they're preying on these schools. There's a lot of schools all over the country that have Indian names. For example, there's one in Wilmington, Delaware, called the Redskins. So this Halbritter goon, this fake Indian that owns this casino in upstate New York, he's the one that's leading this charge. And so he sends people over there to tell the school board that this name's racist. It's racist to Native Americans. And so the school board freaks out and says, it is? We didn't know that. And so then, and pretty soon he'll scare them or bribe them into changing the name. And he's doing that all over the country. He went to Lancaster, New York, which is 7 miles out of Buffalo, did the same thing. And these schools have been had these names for years. And he went out to California, same thing. He sent people out there to go to California. He went up to Sacramento and testified. He took a psychologist up there and testified in front of the Senate committee. And this guy had the nerve to get up there and say, yeah, it's true. These names are causing Indian kids to commit suicide. Just total BS,
I totally agree. That's. I just think we're in a climate right now that has just become so toxic and divisive, and it's this kind of stuff that perpetuates it.
Yeah, that's right. And so we're here to fight it, and that's why we're here. And we've been here almost 3 years, and we'll continue to do that. I want to thank our listeners at Channel 3. Jamie Soretta, she's always listening. She's my buddy, and you can listen to her on Saturday and Sunday mornings on the early morning show at Channel 3.
We watch her all the time.
Yeah, she's my friend. Yeah, she's really a nice lady. American Indian Center of the Great Plains, Kansas City, Missouri. Johnny Leonard is a principal with myself. And now we're going to have Peter McDonald. He is former president of the Navajo Nation, four term, and he is the current president of the Navajo Code Talkers Association. And he lives in Tuba City, Arizona, which is north of Flagstaff, Arizona. And he's going to speak to our listeners, because we have a huge amount of listeners on the Navajo Nation that listen to our show because they're fans of the Washington Redskins and the Kansas City Chiefs and all the names. And we have schools up there called Red Mesa Redskins. And so he's going to say something to our listeners in Navajo, if you would, Peter.
Yate shas toy sezane setzelke sheje kent neshike no kliniki o shidi Peter McDonald dashne aska hatzahon slobet ani bashin adot sakane dashnale ashi dashche todich in eba esetta shada halya kododi anini eba hanne no kodoy ambassador Dennis Yellowhorse nichi yalticho yolwol akoda nini be edeba hanne the real deal ul yo jo koy hashine la ne says yadal lahada ba lahab lahadal no die do kot eda ebni na hada kisigi kodo the real deal no yahal neki da nini jo edeba honne Ako ikena aslagi sto banda yolni to banda notra Graves Company Uliov la shibe da no Sunday da jo kodo kwishi ut di ikena asla kodo kwichi na long kodo ni yati.
Thank you, Peter. If you want to listen to the shows, Peter come down here a little over a year ago, because it was winter time in Tuba City, Arizona, and he come down and stayed with me for about 2 weeks. So we corralled him, and we got him in here, and we taped 4 shows back to back. And Peter talked about his whole life, growing up on the Navajo Reservation, becoming a Navajo code talker, working for Howard Hughes, going back to the reservation, becoming the leader of the Navajo Nation. And these are, I think, 4 of our best shows. We call them what do we call them, Kyle? The Golden Bundle?
The Golden Bundle.
That's right, yeah. And we did the shows back to back. So And all our shows are archived. So all you got to do is go back and look for the shows that say Peter MacDonald. That's M-A-C, capital D-O-N-A-L-D. And those are the shows. Now I'm going to have my business associate, Mark Burr, who lives outside of Washington, D.C. He also met Jack Berkman with me when I was in D.C., and he's been all over the country, and he speaks several different languages. He's fluent in Spanish, and he's going to say something to our listeners in Spanish, because a lot of our listeners, especially Native American listeners in southern Arizona, they don't speak their own language anymore for the most part. They speak Spanish as their first language. So Mark's going to say something to our listeners in Spanish, if you would, Mark.
Claro que sí, don Dennis. Nuevamente, bienvenidos a nuestra audiencia de hispanoparlantes y a todos nuestros patrocinadores, Graves Propane de Flagstaff y YouMade Internacional de Gallup, Nuevo México, y a todos los radio oyentes a través de la nación y del Real Deal y nuestro anfitrión, el embajador.
Thank you, Mark. Now, my co-host from Hong Kong, who's been here about 2.5 years, she's a jewelry designer. You can see her jewelry at jewelryscottsdale.com. She has listeners all over Asia listening to our show. We had a lady in here last week from Singapore, who's a friend of Maggie's, and they listen to her, and she tells them all about the show, and they want to come in here and meet me and find out what's going on with me and this radio show. So Maggie, if you'd say something to our listeners in Chinese, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Chip. 其实这个节目是说美国的印第安人的历史文化。Western Post 访问所有美国的印第安人，他们都喜欢 Western Landskin Kansas City 去这个名字，但是有的华人要改变这个名字。这里是王马先生要保护这个名字，他本人做出了好大的贡献和支持。这里是王马先生还有出售有机土壤叫优美。如果有需要打我美国电话6025151073。Thanks so much for having me on Real Deal. That's such my honor.
You're welcome, Maggie. Star Worldwide Networks, ladies and gentlemen, is the largest, fastest growing internet radio station in the country. 200 shows, 6 million listeners. Kyle, tell them who's number one here.
The Real Deal.
That's right. Better believe it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Sit down back there. Okay, and that's because of all the fans of the teams that honor Native Americans. And we always shout out and say thank you to the fans of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Washington Redskins, Golden State Warriors, Atlanta Braves, Cleveland Indians, Chicago Blackhawks for listening and honoring Native Americans by using these names. It's like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is social and cultural genocide, what Hal Britter and these people are trying to do, fake Indians. This was done in Germany to the Jewish people. Burn the books, get rid of the race. In 100 years, Native Americans will just be Americans. It's nothing more than a phony civil rights scam. Now we're going to take a short break here, and then we're going to introduce my first guest. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, but first we're going to play a song. We'll be right back.
She's got to be somebody's babe. She must be so. She's gonna be somebody's only light, gonna shine tonight. Yeah, she's gonna be somebody's baby tonight. I try to shut my eyes, but I can't get her out of my sight. I know I'm gonna know it, but I gotta get over my pride. But I'm just gonna walk up to it, I'm gonna talk to it tonight. She's gonna be somebody's only light, gonna shine tonight. Yeah, she's gonna be somebody's baby tonight. She's gonna be somebody's only light, gonna shine tonight. Yeah, she's gonna be somebody's baby tonight. Gonna shine tonight, make her mine 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 tonight.
Okay, we're back. Now our first guest, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Popovich. He was born and raised in Sydney, Australia, and immigrated to the United States in 1986, becoming a U.S. citizen in 1994. He studied chemical engineering at Florida State University. In 1994, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, Semper Fi, rising to serve in its elite force reconnaissance company as a scout and as a sniper. This is the first time we had a sniper in the show, Kyle.
It's pretty awesome.
He was showing me pictures. No kidding. The other night we were out having cocktails, and I had to show him. I want to put him on Real Deal Facebook if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
And him out there in Iraq holding these big long rifle. How far does you shoot a rifle like that?
Well, it depends on what you're shooting, but we can get out there pretty far and touch them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you pick the right tool for the job, you can get it done.
Upon his honorable discharge right before 9/11, he entered the restaurant business, and then he was recalled to active duty in 2002 as a weapons and demolitions expert with an Army detachment from Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Upon his second honorable discharge and coinciding with his commercial pursuits, he continued to advise selected agencies and individuals on strategies and foreign policy about Al-Qaeda and the global war on terror in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and North Africa, while holding some of the highest security clearances. My friend Mark Burr, he's been on my show, and he was a Marine, and he was called in to help rebuild Iraq after they got Saddam out of there, and he went over there, and he was telling me how some of the guys were sending personal emails off of the government server, and they got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
I mean, big time.
People get complacent. They do stupid stuff.
Yeah. And so he was telling me, and so we were talking about Hillary Clinton, you know.
How ironic.
Yeah. I mean, she's running it out of her bathroom. You know, I mean, it's just incredible.
Did you see her yesterday blaming everyone but herself, including her own party?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She blamed the DNC. Did you see that, Kyle?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, she's really flipping out.
Yeah, even people on the left her bashing her.
Oh, yeah. She needs campaign counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty sad what, all this, government work and what she did for years, regardless of her politics. She served the country, and then to go out this way, and that's how you're going to be remembered. It's pretty sad.
That is, really. I mean, you look at the other presidents now, even Obama's coming back into it. He's there mouthing off.
Yeah, it's kind of odd that he's going after Trump this way. Bush was, I think, the most class act ever when he left. He never said anything negative, stayed out of it, and I just think it's just become really bad.
Yeah, it has. And I listen to these talk shows and I get really pissed off because, they bash the guy and, some of the stuff that I won't even turn CNN on.
No.
But I'll see stuff, on different networks, some of the stupid stuff they're saying, CNN. That's why I say on this show that Trump needs to start his own news network.
I think he's leaning that way. He's already started with developing that in-house kind of strategy team that's going to go after this fake media. I think you're going to see him leaning toward that. He's been a pioneer, man, when you think that he circumnavigated the media just by his Twitter account alone.
Yeah.
This is revolutionary. No one's ever done this. They've always had to use the mainstream media, and that's where the DNC has kind of colluded with the media and become what it is. And he said, screw you guys, I'm going right around you.
Yeah, and he did. And look at what he does when he goes to these rallies.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I got to tell you a story. Him and his brother, when Trump come down here when he was running for to be elected, he held several rallies here in Phoenix, downtown at the convention center.
I remember them well.
So him and his brother, Sammy, his younger brother, they're Trump supporters. They went down there, and they stood, and it was like, it was in the middle of the summer, right, Kyle?
Yeah, it was like almost a year last year, and it was just one of the most brutal days, like 1:20 outside. But
yeah, and they got down there, 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning?
Yeah, because he was in Vegas, and he was running late, so his speech was until 4, but we got there at 8, so we were the first ones in, but we stood outside for a good while.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, people around us were passing out and stuff, and it was hot.
But that shows you the loyalty of people for the movement, what they believed in. And It wasn't just here, it was everywhere. And that's what I think the left hasn't been able to really kind of understand, that it's truly a revolutionary movement that's just, they missed the train, man.
Oh yeah,
and they're still missing it, and they're scratching their heads. How did this happen?
Right. That's it. Yeah. They're totally in freak out mode.
Totally.
Yeah, and they can't understand how this happened because they all thought they had it in a bag. And when someone like Ann Coulter got on these talk shows, these liberal talk shows, and they asked her who's going to win, she said Donald Trump, and they all just laughed at her.
Do you remember that when she was laughed at, and the poor girl is just getting mocked, and she saw it, and all of us grassroots people did as well. I mean, people in your average neighborhoods, the coal worker, the truck driver, people who are just sick of what Washington's become. I call it the 93 square mile cesspool of the most dysfunctional form of government in the world. I mean,
right.
it's unbelievable.
Yep, it is a swamp, and it's going to be hard to drain.
But it needs draining, and it's starting.
Yeah, that's good. What I say on this show is what Trump needs to do, they can't find out who the leakers are. He said, well, there's a handful of them. There can't be that many that have access to this information. Well, why can't they just polygraph them? Make them take a polygraph test.
They can. As someone who's held clearances and worked in that side of the government, I can tell you it's it's very compartmentalized. We learn a lot from our mistakes, from prior things, and people have access to certain programs. You can figure it out, but when you're dealing with that level of person who has a broad range of reach as far as over a bunch of programs, let's say, I think it goes really high. And I think these subpoenas that got served yesterday or today to Brennan,
Susan Rice,
and the ambassador for the UN. I forgot her name.
Samantha.
Samantha Powell.
Yeah, right.
That shows you that in D.C. they know kind of who they are.
Right.
And they're going after these people because these are the people that can do it. The people like me who had the clearances, they'd find out in a New York second who it was.
Right.
It's not that hard.
Right.
And it's pretty sad that they're using that kind of power for for political gain and to spy on people and try and figure out, how can we, better our situation in an election. That's not what the forefathers wanted.
Right. That's right. And now even the ACLU stepping up and saying, hey, wait a minute, we hate Trump, but you can't be spying on people.
Absolutely. I mean, this crosses, I think, a whole new threshold into an area I don't think we've been as a nation, as a country, as a country of laws, and just in general. It's a whole new ballgame.
Yep. It's sad because everybody loves our country, even these goofballs on the left. But the middle of America has finally woke up and said we've had enough,
and rightfully so.
Yeah, and that's how Trump got elected, because I'm heavily tied to the coal industry because that's where I come from. My family had coal mines all over the United States, and so I ended up in New Mexico. But I have cousins in Pennsylvania and Maryland that are associated to the coal industry, and they would send me pictures when Trump was back there. I mean, there was thousands of the coal people that were supporting him, and the steel people around the country. And look at, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan. That night had to be one of the worst nights for the left and on November 8th and Hillary Clinton that they've ever seen, because they figured they had it in a bag.
My wife and I were down on our honeymoon in Australia, where I'm from. I hadn't been back in 25 years. I went back to see family and show her where I grew up and stuff. Used to skip school, go surf on beaches in Sydney, but that's another story. But I remember we went to the a graveyard where my grandfather was buried, and we got flowers, and they were all watching the coverage leading up to the election, and it was, of course, CNN and all these channels with an agenda. And the lady asked me, "Oh, Clinton's, she's your next president. She's going to win." I said, "Not so fast." Remember that? I said, "Not so fast." And she said, "Why?" She said, "Are you guys from there?" And she said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Well, we're from Scottsdale and Phoenix." I said, "What you guys don't see is what they're not reporting, which is that grassroots movement, the people passing out when you were there, and the lines wrapped around, for miles, people coming out 10 hours before he'd show up." And, they weren't told that. And I'll never forget her look. Like, she looked at me with a skewed eye like, this guy's crazy. And then I remember watching it. Everything's falling, and I'm yelling, and she's, asleep. And she's like, "Why are you yelling?" I'm like, "He's going to win." You started seeing all the states fall that needed to fall for him. And I think we seriously dodged a serious bullet as a nation.
Oh, are you kidding me? I had people call me, my listeners call me, and they said God was on the move.
It's funny. I think there was some kind of divine intervention. I think someone was looking down and saying this is not the direction that this is supposed to head in. Right.
The lady that was on our show last week, Mina Holmes, she's Asian Christians for Trump is how she started out. Now she's Asian Americans for Trump. And I met her at the inauguration. She's been on my show half a dozen times. And before the election, there was a group of ministers. There were Catholic rabbis, Protestants. They all met up in Washington, D.C. to pray for Trump. And they did this several times before the election. And then I seen certain preachers on TV, same thing. And they said, this is divine intervention here.
Something happened, and it was good.
Yeah, it was. Because our country is sitting right at the end of the cliff.
We were there, man.
Yep. I believe it. We were there for sure. And so now, I tell you, if I was Trump, I'd start the Trump News Network, and then I would just go directly to the people and start holding these big rallies like he did. That's where he's in his wheelhouse.
And you see him doing that. He's still maintaining that momentum by doing it, because they're forecasting and looking out to 2020 and, elections that will affect, the party, the Republican Party, and this, this conservative movement that they need to maintain.
Right. And then these establishment politicians, especially Republicans, that don't want to support him, like Lindsey Graham and John McCain and these guys, I would go just hit them right hard in their hometown.
I've been saying on my blog forever. I've been saying on my blog forever, John McCain's going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, God, thank you for your service. God bless you. But you're outdated, antiquated, and quite frankly, there should be a D behind your name.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He should go to the Democrat Party.
Absolutely.
I've met him several times, and it's all about John McCain.
I mean, his statement to say that Russia is a greater threat from influencing trying to influence the election. If they did, we don't know at this stage what happened. We don't know yet, right? So let's see that play out. But for him to say that they're a greater threat than ISIS, I mean, come on. that's just, I think, over the top.
Yeah. How about Kathy Griffin?
Oh yeah, she had a press conference today.
Oh yeah, do you see it? Trump ruined me. Trump broke me.
She broke herself.
She broke herself.
Absolutely.
You know, and what was really funny was when she did that, they were saying that I had calls from some Indian casinos in New Mexico, and they canceled her shows. They were canceling them. They're canceling them all over the country.
Vegas canceled her. She had shows there that she was appearing at all the casinos. CNN canceled her. One of the startups that started on Shark Tank, some kind of porta potty thing to help kids go.
Yeah.
She was a spokesperson for it. They canceled her. So, you know, this is a self-inflicted wound, and now she's trying to blame others for doing it.
Right.
I mean, it was completely sick what she did.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine? How about the rodeo clown? He had a picture of Obama.
Of Obama, right?
And he could never be a rodeo.
I mean, could you
clown.
imagine if someone on the right did that and held a mask up like that of President Obama?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just certain lines you don't cross, and there has to be some civility.
Right. That's right. And she just thought she could get away with it, and everybody like her and Colbert, they could just laugh it off.
But that's the left.
Yeah.
That's the left for you.
Right.
I mean, that's become the norm. You know,
Right.
let's just keep piling it on, pushing, doing outlandish stuff. And, you know, they live in this nexus there in Hollywood. You know, that's 0.1% of the population. That's not reality. They're not the people that were standing out, passing out at rallies and stuff. You
Right.
know, they're just detached from reality, and that's why the Democratic Party has lost 1,000 seats across the nation. I mean,
Right.
they've got to get those back, and then some above and beyond that to start getting control.
Right.
That's a daunting task.
Yeah. They pretty much ruined themselves. I mean, the corruption.
Yeah.
And that's why this kid got killed. He's seen it. He's just a young kid, and he said, yeah, you know, you guys are railroading Bernie Sanders just because you think you can get away with it. And he gives WikiLeaks information, and WikiLeaks puts it out to the public that they're giving her the questions
Right.
to the debates and all the crap that's going on.
Yeah, and then just the conniving behind the scenes with them of trying to get rid of Bernie and like destroy his reputation. He's in your party, for Pete's sakes.
Right.
You know, and when the public gets wind of stuff that they otherwise maybe don't think happens, but they suspect it might, that really makes them say, wow, this has gotten out of control.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's I was just going to say about the rallies too. It those rallies, if anything, helped Trump because the left kind of made people. I feel like a lot in this election, people felt like they were forgotten. That's what Trump ran
Totally.
on, was the forgotten man and stuff.
Yeah.
And later in that day, he came down. We met him, and we
They
took
got a
photos.
picture with him.
Yeah, he
That's
came
awesome.
down, and if anything, that just fired us up more because it made me and my brother feel like we're such a small fraction of this country, and the fact that he took the time to talk to just us made me want to vote for him.
And made you feel
Instead of-
special. He took a certain second of his life
That's
and time
right.
to talk to you and connect with you.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what he spread across all the country is that people felt like they were, recognized and their problems were recognized rather than, the left just kind of running on the same old agenda and talking points.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, he definitely had the forgotten man and woman. That's who voted for him. People are sick and tired of the status quo.
Yep.
And I even put signs. I gave some to Kyle. They loaded me up with signs. They wanted me to become a delegate. Trump's people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Corey Lewandowski and them wanted me to become a delegate. So they said, go down here to this meeting. And so the show was over at 6 o'clock. And so I go down Phoenix to this place where the Republicans are electing delegates. And so I threw my hat, and they got up and said, everybody had to say who they were. And I said, I'm here, and I'm a Trump supporter, and I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman. And they voted me to become a delegate.
You became a delegate?
Yeah, well, no. Then I went to the big convention in Mesa, and then I didn't make the cut. There was only so many.
Right.
But I made it to go to Mesa. That's as far as I got. But so they gave me a bunch of signs. So I put the signs up in front of my house, and somebody stole them, took them down. So the Paradise Valley Police, they're all for Trump. All policemen, most all policemen.
Yeah,
are for
I was
Trump.
just going to say, aren't all policemen pretty much in law enforcement?
Yeah. they're all for Trump, and they come over and they said, boy, if we catch you's doing, we're going to keep an eye out, and we're going to watch your yard. If we catch you's doing it, we're going to throw him in jail for trespassing. And I said, okay, that's good.
I like when they rig them up with like electricity and they try to grab them.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, have you seen the YouTube videos where they rig them up with electricity and stuff?
No, I'd like to see
Right?
that.
They put like barbed
man.
wire on the rim of it and they grab it and
And they grab it, and then they put a camera to videotape it. It's awesome.
yeah.
I got to check that out. Okay, we're going to take a short break here, and then we're going to Kyle, get the Real Deal Airlines ready and call the pilots, tell them to light the fires, kick the tires, take us up to Washington, D.C. But before we go up to D.C., I want to tell everybody that's listening to our show that these protesters on the left and these name changers like Halbert that want to change the names of these teams, you want to know what their problem is?
You can't handle the truth.
Down
Okay, we're back. My next guest, ladies and gentlemen, is Alicia Powell. She's an investigative reporter with WorldNet Daily. That's WND.com. WND is an online conservative Christian news outlet that was founded in 1997 by Joseph and Elizabeth Farah. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. It's now a top 400 website powerhouse with 6.5 unique visitors, 6.5 million unique visitors and more than 40 million page views a month. WND also publishes books, highly influential magazines, produces blockbuster movies. Alicia has written for numerous outlets, including Human Events, Media Research Center, Town Hall, Daily Surge, and Young Cons. She worked in the war room for Rudy Giuliani presidential campaign, served as a White House intern during George W. Bush administration. Alicia holds a Bachelor of Science degree in political science from John Jay College of Criminal Justice. She is a New York native and currently resides in Washington, D.C. You can follow her on Twitter at Alicia Powell. Alicia, welcome to The Real Deal.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you got to meet my buddy Jack Berkman, huh?
Yes, he revealed a lot of bizarre information on Wednesday, I believe, in front of the Metropolitan Police Department during a press conference.
Wow. Well, let me tell you, did the family hire Jack Berkman, or is he doing this on his own?
He's doing it on his own, so no.
Okay. Well, the family, and maybe you can clarify this with our audience. Of course, we knew that Seth Rich, who got murdered, was working for the DNC, right?
Yes, he was working in the voter analysis division of the DNC.
Okay, and he was in and out of the White House a lot, wasn't he?
I'm not sure about whether or not he was in the White House or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if he were.
Right. At that time, where was the DNC headquarters?
The DNC headquarters is, and I believe has been in Washington, D.C.
Okay, that makes sense.
Near the Capitol Hill area.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. He was a Bernie Sanders supporter from what I've been told.
Yes, he was, and allegedly he was on his way to the FBI the morning he got killed.
Really?
To report about the DNC rigging the election, or that's not been substantiated yet, but I see reports that there's allegations that that's where he was headed the morning he was killed.
Wow. How did you get in? I mean, you obviously you live in Washington D.C. So when this happened, you got involved in it with your news organization. Is that correct?
No, not when this happened, and I wasn't with WorldNet Daily when it happened. But I was reporting, and I was following the campaign, and I remember when the emails were being leaked. The emails that week he was killed, or the week prior to him being killed, revealed that the Democratic National Committee was rigging the election against Bernie Sanders. And those emails also revealed very disgusting things that the Democrat Party was doing. Right.
Yeah, we probably only know the half of it.
Well, what we found out was they were saying having all kinds of exchanges where they were basically saying racist things about their constituents, sexist things, and they were rigging the election against Bernie Sanders, trying to, how can we stab him in the back? And so not only did they rig the election with superdelegates, but they had coordinated plans on how they were going to make sure Hillary secures a nomination, despite Bernie Sanders having massive support, probably just as much support as Donald Trump had at his rallies. We saw that for sure.
Right.
So,
the family of this kid, now they're connected to the DNC somehow, right?
Well, I'm not sure. They might have been Democrat, but prior to him getting killed, I don't know what connections they have to the Democrat Party. except for I was told by the man who paid for the family to have a private investigator and the private investigator that the family ultimately hired that they were assigned a spokesman after Seth Rich was killed, assigned a spokesman by the DNC. Originally, Jack Berkman had approached them in the week following Seth's murder, and the family did not want Jack's intervention. They said, why is this guy approaching us? Can you help us get rid of him? They said to someone named Ed Bukowski, a Texas financier, someone who paid for the detective. They asked him to help get rid of Jack Berkman's interference because they already have a spokesman. And the spokesman's name is Brad Bauman. He's a Democratic political crisis consultant. And Bauman emphatically denied that he was hired by the DNC, but Ed Bukowski and the private detective, Rod Wheeler, told me that he was.
I've seen Wheeler on Hannity the other night. Yeah. Yeah.
He was a former
in the media a lot.
He was a former DC homicide detective.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was a Fox News contributor for years. I've seen him on Fox.
Okay.
He's been a homicide detective. He started his career as a homicide detective in 1989.
Well, I can tell you something. Jack Berkman, I know him. He's my buddy, and he will get to the bottom of it. There's no doubt in my mind he will.
Well,
he'll bring it all out.
We need to, as a collective, get to the bottom of it, because this is not something, that should just be walked away from and forgotten about and left in the collective unconscious. Because if the DNC has some role in killing this young man, they should be brought to justice. Whoever has killed him.
Right.
Why should we forget about it or be cast conspiracy theories when you keep looking for evidence and all the evidence points in the same direction?
Right.
And
right.
It's not that he was robbed. If someone's robbed, they're not left remaining with their wallet, their credit cards, their watch, their cell phone, and any other valuable.
Right. And we were just saying before, my other guest here, it's in the studio with me, we've both been in that neighborhood as well as you have. And that's a very prominent neighborhood there.
Yes, it's a really quaint neighborhood, and it's very quiet. I went myself about a week ago, walked around, stood in the spot where he was found dead, went to the store across the street for surveillance footage, which I was not able to obtain. I knocked on the door of the building he lived. Someone answered, but they were very afraid. They said, "Who are you with? And where are you from? We're not talking to media right now." And they slammed the door in my face. And it's just odd because, I understand people want to be left alone to their privacy, but all we're looking to do is help and uncover what's apparently not being investigated by the Metropolitan Police Department, the Washington, D.C. Police Department, or the mayor's office is also insisting, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is insisting this was a robbery. And Jack Berkman, as well as Detective Rod Wheeler, they both insist, they tell me that the D.C. Police Department have been told to stand down. Now, Wheeler tells me when he went to the police department to find out more information about Seth Rich's case in March when he first started the investigation, they gave him blank stares and wouldn't give him any information. And then after this story came back onto the world stage about 2 weeks ago, the family told Wheeler that Donna Brazile contacted them and contacted the police department after he showed up there to find out why he was snooping around. And he was stunned by this information that they had just told him that now. And how would the DNC have known that he went to the police department? And why would the DNC be contacting the family? Mind you, the DNC has offered $0 reward dollars for anyone with information about Seth Rich's murder.
Right.
$0.
Yeah.
All they've done is build a bike rack in memory of Seth Rich.
Right, and that's why I find it very strange that Julian Assange of WikiLeaks offered up a reward to help solve this kid's death.
Yes, Julian Assange offered a $20,000 reward. Jack Berkman's offering a $105,000 reward. The Metropolitan Police Department have offered a $25,000 reward. A brand new news network, it's on TV if you haven't watched it yet, One American News Network, they're offering a $100,000 reward. So add all that up, you're looking at near $300,000 reward. And not one person has come with information. And from what the investigators have told me, that's odd. Because even when someone offers a $5,000 reward, people come forward, even if it's just for the money.
Right, yeah.
So, and it's inaccurate information, people come forward. So perhaps people have come forward and the police is just squandering that information, which would fall in line with what Berkman says and Ward Wheeler says. And, yeah.
What,
Weird.
now I don't know where I heard this, and maybe you can clarify it for us. When the police got there, they had cameras, and the kid was still alive, and he was able to talk to the police. Or does anybody know any validity about that?
Yes, from what we've found so far, he was alive. He was certainly alive when he was picked up by the EMS. We're going to try contacting the EMS next. I haven't been able to get their spokesperson on the phone yet, but he was alive, and we don't know which hospital he died at, and we won't be. It's very difficult to find out because of HIPAA law. We went to the hospital to try to find out information, and we were escorted out. I was escorted out by security guards, and I was told journalists are not allowed in the hospital.
Did you try talking to his girlfriend?
We've actually have the numbers of all the family members, and none of them were answering the phone, and nor would his girlfriend. And here's another thing. So I was told by the person who financed Rod Wheeler investigation that the family, there was a 2-week negotiation period that took place. And actually, Rod Wheeler told me the same thing. There's a 2-week negotiation period that took place with the family and Detective Wheeler prior to him taking on the case. And that negotiation included the fact that they did not want Wheeler to look into any connections to Rich and WikiLeaks and email. You can investigate the case, just don't investigate the email stuff, because we don't want anything to do with that. And that's strange. It's another red flag. And so from what there might be a possibility that one of the family members was helping him. My source says, who I can't reveal, was involved with the leaking of emails with Rich.
Who do you think's paying Wheeler?
Well, I know Ed Butowski paid Wheeler, and I spoke with him.
And who is he again?
So, Ed Butowski is a Texas. He's also a Fox News contributor. He's a Texas financial expert, pretty much. And he saw the story in the news. He reached out to the family and had some information he heard about the case he wanted to exchange with them. He asked the family how they're holding up. Are you finding out any information about who killed your son? The parents told him, no, the police department haven't told us anything, and it's been months. And he said, well, do you have a private investigator? They said no. He offered to pay for a private investigator, and the family took him up on it.
Is the family the one that told? Is he the one that was told to get rid of Jack Berkman?
The family, yes. The family asked him to help get rid of Jack Berkman.
Well, let me tell you, Jack Berkman's going to turn out to be the DNC's worst nightmare.
Well, let's hope so. I understand Jack is also looking into connections with Trump and Russia, what they have to do with it. And I don't understand why his emphasis isn't more on the DNC. I understand we shouldn't look at all aspects. So at least someone's looking, thank goodness. Yeah,
well, Jack, he'll do his job. Wherever it leads, that's what he does.
also what's very peculiar is the fact that the night, and Jack revealed this during the press conference, his team of investigators, I think they're called a profiling project, they have learned that there was an FBI van about 2 miles away from where Seth was murdered, the night he was murdered, and 2 weapons were stolen from this van. And that was not reported by the media, that was not publicized, and so he's filing FOIA requests to get a ballistics report.
Right.
To see if those bullets were, in fact, bullets from the guns the FBI lost.
Right.
So it's just another odd thing that makes this story all the more reason to keep talking about it, all the more reason to stop calling people who talk about it conspiracy theorists.
Let me ask you something. Does the local media stations in D.C., do they talk about it much or zero?
Well, if they do talk about it, no, there was a blackout when the story hit Drudge. The fact that a federal investigator, an anonymous federal investigator, claims to have seen the emails. Fox News reported that. They've now recanted that story, and so it just gives the mainstream media all the more reason to call people who are talking about it conspiracy theorists. But the day that story broke, they weren't talking about it. And then a terrorist attack happened the next day. So they really had more reasons to ignore it. And you can see there's just one congressman who's addressed it. It's Farenthold from Texas. And CNN, they were just berating him during this interview, calling him a conspiracy theorist. They say there's no there. So basically, let's change the subject, right? And then Sean Hannity, advertisers have been pulling away from him for addressing the story, and then he announced he's not talking about it anymore. He knows what pressure he's experiencing from his bosses at Fox or his advertisers.
Yeah, he totally clammed up.
Right. And even alternative media outlets are not talking about it enough or afraid to touch it because they don't want to be branded conspiracy theorists. So there's not that many people talking about it in the news, but Americans are talking about it all over social media. Social media proves it. Thank goodness we live in a new worldwide web of information where,
Well, it's news organizations like yours and my radio show that get the word out to we deliver the message, tell the truth, and that's so important to share it because 97% of the media were in with Hillary Clinton. That's proven.
Well, there was a 97% chance he was going to be the president, according to their poll, and nonetheless, there's a new medium of information that's never been the case, right? Throughout American history, we've seen they used to just test ABC and NBC, and then we've got cable news outlets to compete. We had one Fox, and now Fox is basically being destroyed. Bill O'Reilly's gone, and they're going to continue to try this campaign of censorship is what we're seeing, the censorship agenda. Even people who post things on Facebook or Twitter, and WND, their accounts are getting suspended for posting things that are fake news because Seth Rich is fake news. Whatever. We saw this term fake news after being thrown around by CNN and liberals and Democrats and Mark Zuckerberg after Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, was found in an email exchange talking about spirit cooking days before the election. And then all these people on the internet started looking up stuff what spirit cooking means and started seeing more emails where they talk about have code words, which basically alluded to some Pizzagate scandal. So we don't want to talk about that. That's conspiracy theories, and we're not allowed to investigate it. But that's where the fake news term started being thrown around.
Right. It's incredible. Well,
also, WorldNet Daily, once we published the story that I wrote about Donna Brazil contacting the police department to find out why the private investigator was snooping around, Twitter suspended our account for 12 hours.
Really?
And took the story down. So there's no there. So let's take the story down.
Yeah. Let's shut them down because there's no there.
Right.
You know, that's, well, I'm so glad that when I come to D.C., I want to take you to lunch.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll go by the DNC and ask them if they killed Seth Rich.
Yeah, we'll go over there and tell them I want to do an interview over there for my radio show.
Excellent. Well, that's the plan next. So I've been sending emails out for the last day and a half trying to get members of Congress to simply weigh in on the Seth Rich story. And not a single member so far out of the 125 members of Congress I've emailed have responded. But actually, 5 responded saying, no, we're not available. The plan is in Washington, D.C., and a few miles away from Capitol Hill, is to go over what they have to say about it in person, because we are to hold them accountable. We elected them, and they need to stay on top of it. Republicans and Democrats are united in putting the Seth Rich story to bed, and it's odd. And it's either have no back, and also being afraid of being called conspiracy theorists. Probably, but they need to get a backbone.
Yeah, they all need to get a backbone. Okay, Alicia, we're running out of time, but we have each other's numbers, we have each other's emails, so let's stay in touch. And then anytime something breaks, I want you to come back on the show for a few minutes.
Sure, anytime. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I will be happy to come back anytime. Hopefully, more important information surfaces about this case, and the Democrats can stop getting away with murder if that's in fact what happened.
Right. Well, trust me, Jack Berkman, he don't hold back. He's going to turn out to be their worst nightmare. So I'll let you go and take care and be safe. And if anything comes up, give me a shout.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great night. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a great guest.
Yeah, she's doing some, she's hitting the ground running down there and definitely stirring, the bushes up out there and trying to get to the bottom of something.
Yeah. I think we got one more song. Why don't you tee it up, Kyle?
Moved
Okay, we're back. We're into the show. Alex, thanks for coming in, and tell us a little bit about how people can contact you and some of the things you wanted to mention to our listeners tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I've got a little blog I started, just alexpopovic.com, and I just talk about topics and stuff like that and just kind of growing grassroots. But then my real estate company that I work with vets and first responders here in the Valley and give back my commission to them and, try to help them out in probably what's their largest business transaction. And try to just help them out any way I can and pass it forward to my fellow vets and first responders who, in my eyes, that's where the rubber meets the road and keeps the civilian society, and they're out there putting their lives on the line every day.
Absolutely.
So the least I can do is give them back something and help them out. So you can follow me at semperfindmyhome.com, like Semper, S-E-M-P-E-R, find my home, that's a Marine in me, .com, and that's our real estate website. And you can follow me on Twitter at @AlexPopovic.
Okay, Alex. Again, thanks for coming in. You're welcome to come back anytime. Hope you will. And we're at the end of the road, ladies and gentlemen. And I always want to thank all of our people in the armed services here and abroad for protecting our great country. I'm here to tell the truth and deliver the message. And if you guys could consider being a sponsor, we need sponsors to keep me on the air. If you like what I'm doing, I'll put on a show for you if you put on a show for me. You can get a hold of us at info@yellowhorse.us or 602-540-3000 for advertising on The Real Deal. Okay, here we go. Kyle, why don't you tell everybody that's from all over the world, including Asia, why the ambassador's here?
To kick ass and save names, Ambassador.
I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Real Deal. Tune in to The Real Deal with the Ambassador and special guest hosts every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and on demand 24/7 right here on Star Worldwide Networks.